everyone, it's Hannah. I'm here today with Rocket Talks Entertainment. I just want to give you a quick introduction to the interview that you're about to watch. So right now the Slamdance Film Festival is happening. It's already started and it's going up till next Thursday, February 25th. As with most film festivals this year, it is mostly virtual, which is kind of a good thing, a little bit of silver lining for those of us in Wyoming. It gives us a little bit of easier access to this film festival than we might otherwise have. So one of the films that is being shared through Slamdance this year is the music documentary Bleeding Audio. This film is a documentary that tells the story of the Matches. They were a punk rock band in the early 2000s, and it goes through their story, their experience in the music industry, the struggles that they faced, and just the journey that they went on as a band together. It's a really great documentary. I definitely recommend watching it as part of Slamdance. And it's being shared through a few other film festivals right now as well that also have virtual access. So I would definitely recommend watching it. It's just a great story and really interesting and just a well-made film. We were reached out to by the team behind this film about being able to pre-screen it and review it, so you can watch for my review in the Rocket Miner. But I also got the opportunity to do a Zoom interview with Chelsea, the director of the film, and Justin, who was one of the members of the Matches. And they were awesome people. It was so great getting to talk to them about this film, about their experiences. So that's the setup for what you're about to see is my Zoom interview with them. But again, definitely encourage you to check out this documentary. It's a great one that I think pretty much anyone would be able to enjoy. And it's just a great story, and it was a great opportunity to get to talk to them about it. So that interview is what you're about to see. Please enjoy. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this. I very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
No, I'm excited. I was wondering if to start out you could just introduce yourselves and what you have to do with this.
So my name is Chelsea Krister, and I'm the director of Bleeding Audio, which is a music documentary about the band The Matches and their experience with the digitizing industry.
And my name is Justin San Souci, and I play bass in The Matches.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I'm so excited. I watched the film last night and absolutely loved it. It was great. And so excited to talk to you guys. Yeah, for sure. So I guess to start, I just wanted to ask you mostly, Chelsea, like, how did this come about? Why does this film exist? Why did you want to make it?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been a fan of the band The Matches for a really long time. And when I was in film school, I got to know them as friends by doing a couple little film projects for them. And, this isn't really a spoiler, but they broke up, and I remained friends with them over the years. And so when they let it slip to me that they were going to reunite, I thought, hey, this is going to be huge. Let me support you in any way I can. I'll make, marketing videos for you, just whatever you need to make this as special as it can be. And as I started learning more about their story and considering myself inside circle, there was so much stuff that I didn't know about their story that really surprised me, but also felt so relevant to what was going on in the digitizing music industry. I started to kind of percolate and think about this film in a bigger way. And presented the idea of doing a feature-length documentary to them, and they were like, "Oh, you're crazy. We're not interested. Like, that's if that's really what you want to do with your time, okay. Like, here's fine, go forth, And they were very supportive and gave me full access. But as indicated in the film too, they're just super humble guys, and out of sheer determination and enormous support from the Matches community of fans and family and friends, and 2 Kickstarter campaigns in 6 years. Like, here we are with a finished film, but it was a long journey with a lot of support and love on the way. But here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Justin, obviously she said you guys were kind of didn't know why she would want to make a film. So how did you feel about that to begin with, and how do you feel now that the film started to be shared and to see people's reactions to it?
Yeah, I think I I think when she first asked us, the thought was, I don't think there's enough here to make a movie. So we're kind of like, I don't know, like it seems kind of like it seems like a lot of work for something that's not going to really be much there. And so by the time we finally got to see the movie and got it was put together, it was quite extraordinary to see that you could actually weave such an interesting and compelling story together. So I was definitely proven wrong.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think just watching the film, it was amazing to me just how compelling the story is and how it's so real and it's real life, but it really feels like a narrative almost. Like for me, I'm really into nerdy literature stuff. So my first thought was like the hero's journey concept and how it kind of goes through that full cycle of like the band breaking up and things being as low as they could possibly be and then reuniting and coming back together. So obviously, Chelsea, I think that was where you saw that there was so much potential, but yeah,
Yeah.
why do you think this story is so engaging?
Well, I mean, I honestly, you're probably the first person to interview us who's actually brought that up on their own, which is amazing, because we literally took the hero's journey and mapped it beat by beat to this film, because
That's
I come from a
amazing.
narrative screenwriting background initially. That's the storytelling that I've learned. It's in my blood. And when we were honing down the film, our beats just weren't landing. Like the tears weren't quite flowing, like the impact of the struggle wasn't quite hitting. And so we literally said, okay, what's a form that we can use to make this as successful and relatable and as possible? And it was, let's just map it to the hero's journey. We have, meeting of the mentor, we have the darkest cave, we have the return with the elixir. We had every single beat like that matched their story. And I went into this film wanting to make a story about the Matches because I love this band. I felt like they deserved their their day in court, if you will. And I wanted to share them with a bigger audience. But in order to share them with a bigger audience, I didn't just want to make a catalog of the Matches and make it this just document of them. I wanted to make sure to wrap people into them as characters and to see the struggle of their story from all perspectives. So whether you love their music or you might not like their music, I hope that you love them by the end of it, because their journey and their struggle is relatable for any artist who wants to follow a dream, And I think too, we're so focused as a society, especially in our capitalist society, on like being the biggest thing and the biggest success is what success means. And my hope is that now with this amazing democratization of art through the digital industry, instead of seeing that as a crutch, we see it as like a way of everybody being able to get a little bit of success, and that this can hopefully set expectations that maybe you won't be that arena band, but you could have something more special and more personal like the Matches had. And I mean, there is a lot to go into that too about, making sure that compensation in the industry is still, livable, which is a whole other separate problem. But that was way to pick up on that. Thank you.
That's awesome. No, yeah. I love the hero's journey. So yeah, that was definitely the vibe I was getting. So it worked.
It works, it was so funny because we sat down and I was like, every screenwriting teacher that I've ever had is just sitting here laughing at me being like, I told you.
That's amazing. I love it. So since you brought up that concept of success, like for me, I think that was the biggest message of the film that came across to me was like, how do we define success and what does that mean and what does that look like? So I was going to say, Justin, obviously you can speak to it personally since this is your story, but what do you think, how does that come across in the film, and like how would you define success, and how is it different than what people expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think when you start out, like you definitely view, like when you start on a band, you definitely see success as like how many people you're playing to, how much money you're making, like how the band is growing, like momentum and trajectory and accomplishments at like playing venues or traveling the world and like getting to play with what size bands you're playing with and such. And I think like for us, a big part of that journey was even, we didn't reach the top pinnacle of success as a band, say financially or size wise, reach wise, but we're able to kind of build like a really strong and wonderful community, and had a really supportive fan base that has stuck with us for a long time. And I think that's all part of success. And like you don't have to walk away with a retirement, but you can you can walk away with like love and support and art that you're proud of.
Yeah, that's good. I was thinking too, kind of connected to that, obviously I think one of the most real and interesting parts of the film is just talking about when each of the band members like decided this isn't what we want, that we're not feeling it right now. And obviously Justin's talked about that you were kind of the first to recognize that. And I thought that was really cool and interesting that we have this concept of like, if you just chase your dream and follow your passion, it's always going to be the best thing for you.
Yeah.
So what was, obviously you said that was like the hardest decision for you, but what was that like to choose like your own health and mental health and your own life over what everyone thought should be your dream?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a thing where people are, it's like, oh, you have to, follow your dreams and you won't be fulfilled until you follow your dreams. And then, you don't stick it out, like, it's, you're failing. And so, there is a lot of like that kind of running through my head, but then also too, just the total burnout of playing so many shows, living on the road for almost 10 years, like just constant touring. Like it wasn't a healthy lifestyle anymore. It was definitely like making a mess of me and like my mental health. And so I think you kind of, you definitely have to kind of reframe your dreams and what you want to accomplish and what that actually like means to you. Just because, maybe like a lot of times your perspective changes, like, what your dream was 10 years ago isn't necessarily going to be like what your dream is now. And also too, sometimes the dream you have is not attainable. It's not healthy. It's not actually what you really want to be doing. So, trying to have a better perspective and understand that like what are your true goals, like going forward in life, and like how to reach them. Like you don't have to necessarily continue to live in a van and keep playing music to be happy with your life. Like, you can pivot to other things and other outlets and, explore other dreams.
Yeah, that's great. With that too, one of the things I appreciated about the film was just how it showed this reality of this situation and of what being in a band and being constantly on tour is. So Chelsea, what was it like how did you kind of capture that and show that balance of perspectives there?
Yeah, I think for me it was kind of like being snapped out of a dream when I started learning the truth of what goes on behind the scenes for musicians, especially ones that appear so outwardly successful or up and coming, and just how scrappy it actually is behind the scenes. And so it meant a lot to me to in interviews, in conversations with musicians, and in just, some of those photos that I got from them on the road, to just show this other side where people, I mean, we know touring is hard. We know that touring, can be messy, and there is like a glamour of rock and roll at a certain level. But the truth is that ever since the digital revolution, like touring's become the only income these artists have, so they have to do it relentlessly. And so while I luckily missed out on the smells and the compressed spaces of tour, it was important to me to make sure that fans understood, oh, it's cool to follow your dream, but there's a price, and it's usually mental health and like comfort. And it's hard, and I think what compelled me to make sure that this message was happening was the fact that it was consistent across the board with every musician I spoke to at every level, is that while the musicians who were more established in the 90s, they're able to carry over that kind of success into the digital era, they work with musicians who had the same kind of trajectory and lifestyle that the Matches had. And a lot of the bands that were their peers at the time too, Motion City Soundtrack, Plain White Tees, all of this was consistent across the board. And that's what shocked me the most. Was I thought, oh, maybe it was just the Matches, maybe they just weren't handling their business in a way to make this a more livable lifestyle. But it was pretty consistent, and I just, as a fan, like, I like to know that I'm supporting my artists, and if there's anything I'm doing that like might not support them, or like make that lifestyle better, like I wanted to kind of expose that, without pointing any fingers, because it's no one's fault necessarily. But I feel like being a more conscious consumer when you love an artist is an important thing to do. So I didn't want to hide behind all the glamour that a lot of music docs do. I wanted to show that this is real life, guys.
Right.
This is a wake up call,
Definitely. I think that's important for fans, because like I'm a fan of a lot of things, but I'm also conscious of the fact that it's like I don't really know what these people are going through in their daily lives necessarily. And I think that's an important perspective to have. I'm wondering from either of you if you've heard much feedback from like people who were fans of the Matches who've then seen the film and are like, that wasn't what I thought was going on, or like I had no idea what this was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Justin, you want to speak to it, but something that, I've been living with this film, and I've known their story without spoiling anything. I've known their story for like 10 years now. I was there when, the big spoiler alert reveal happened. And I was just so socialized to like knowing this part of their story that it didn't, I kind of forgot that Matches fans had no idea why this band broke up, is everybody thought, whoa, they're like on the cover of magazines, they're at their peak, they are about to break it huge. Why on earth would they quit now, And a big part of it is that dissonance of seeing the outward success versus like what's actually happening in the background. So yeah, I've had a lot of fans reach out and say, wow, I had no idea. But also, they recognize how nostalgic the film is, and they feel like, they get to experience and live that Matches story again, which is, means a lot to me, because we really wanted to capture that feeling. But I also hope it answered that question that I didn't realize had been unanswered for, over 10 years now. So it's been very humbling hearing the responses from fans, and then also from people who have never heard the Matches before. I've been hearing a ton of people say that they are brand new fans, that this movie like got them into the music, and that's also very exciting and all part of the plan.
I will admit that is me. Like I was not in that scene in the early 2000s. I had no idea. So, but I'm like, I gotta check out this music.
Cool.
Yes, it's
Awesome.
working.
Yeah, I mean, similar for me. Like, I think for me, talking some friends that have seen the movie that were in bands, at the time. You know, a lot of people were going through similar stuff, and it was, you know, nice to, you can commiserate with other bands that were, you know, on the same level or maybe a little bigger, and then also to, you know, talking to some friends that were just, yeah, we're really surprised about some of the twists and things that did happen or occur, and just being like, oh man, I can't believe you had to deal with that. No wonder you guys, no wonder it didn't work out. Like, it just, like, you know, you're kind of, it was kind of some of the framework and foundational structure was, you know, doomed from the start.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that that's one of the cool things is how the film gives like that inside look into what was going on, and yeah, just the reality of the situation for sure. So, Justin, with that, I feel like, how hard was it to be like really vulnerable? Because all of you guys were so vulnerable for this film and like shared so many personal things. And like, was that really difficult, or was it like nice to be able to finally share the story?
It was very difficult, I think, especially for me. I think when we first started doing interviews and talking about stuff, like, I really didn't want to talk about stuff. So definitely for one of the interviews, I think I drove Chelsea crazy, but I think it was, you know, 5-hour interview, and, you know, really struggling to get anything out of me. But I think it was, you know, partly, you know, being defensive and not really want to opening it up. And then, you know, finally when I decided to, like, just kind of give into the process, then, you know, it got a lot better, and it was almost became like therapeutic to kind of, you know, spill the beans.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was almost like a full 180, and it was just kind of obviously Chelsea's patience and just finally, you know, opening up and starting to talk about it, because I really hadn't talked to anybody about it. Like, I just kind of just was like, oh, that was the past and I'm moving forward, so I'm not going to dwell on it. So it was definitely, I think, at the time, a very difficult situation, but looking back now, a very positive event.
And Justin, you're being a little hard on yourself. but yeah, it did take him some time to open up for sure. But I also feel like Justin had, and you know, it's no surprise, but Justin had, I think, the most complicated relationship to the story itself, you know, from all the guys. So, and I'm super appreciative that he did open up. It was really funny seeing, not funny, but it was amazing seeing the contrast between, you know, I designed the interviews to have, you know, a part 1 interview, which was all about the history, and then a part 2 interview, which was basically from breakup onward. And so all the history interview, that was the one that took about 6 hours with a lot of stops and starts in between, in fairness. And then the part 2 interview, he was like, I got this now. I'm in it. And he answered everything. I think we're done with that interview in like an hour. So it was a night and day difference. And I'm super appreciative of him and all the guys opening up.
Yeah, well, I think that's what's great about the film is just, like I said, the inside perspective of knowing not only what was happening, but then, yeah, what they were going through personally. And that's just what makes it something that people can connect with, I think, more. And that was one of the things I appreciated too, was the balance between like technical information and personal information. Because like I'm not a musician. I don't know anything about the music industry or how it works. So it was great that there was that balance of explaining things and giving like inside personal perspective. So Chelsea, how did you like balance that?
It was really hard, honestly. The first editor I had on the film, Jen Bradwell, she and I had an amazing working relationship where I gave her like the matches timeline. I told her the music industry story and kind of tied in the bullets of where they were on the matches timeline. And, you know, we went into this project really being like 50-50. It's going to be 50% matches, 50% music industry. And so the cut that Jen put together, which was like a 2-hour, 40-minute assembly cut, it had both those stories in it, and it was very much like 50-50. And what we came to find is that in just like reviewing it with peers and people as we were honing it down into a shorter cut, people weren't as compelled by the music industry story. It felt to them too much like preaching. It was too technical. And so every scene that Jen put together, I thought was so critical and amazing. But it was so funny seeing how the further away we got from the matches, the more people wanted them back because they're just such lovable guys. And so what we did with my second editor on the film, Luke Schock, one of my oldest friends, he and I made sure that every scene that was starting to dig into music industry minutia, that it tied directly into the matches somehow, or had some sort of implication that could make you directly connect it with the matches, so that it was still a universal, this is the time and place, this is what's happening right now, but it was personally tied into them so that you could access it easier than being like, oh, we're ping-ponging back and forth from here's a scene about the matches and here's a scene about the music industry, which is what it kind of felt like in our assembly cut.
Yeah. No, I think the final result worked really well because
Thank you.
Not knowing anything about the music industry, it was, like definitely informative and helped me learn a lot, but like never lost me. Like it didn't get boring or too technical at any point. So, so it was good. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And it can get really technical. Like there's stuff now I'm still confused about. Like there's so many ins and outs of a music contract that would just, I think, melt the average person's brain. Like you can't, I don't think you could fully understand it unless you're a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Which we actually did. I'm so sad. We have the most incredible music and entertainment lawyer, Chris Kinney. She gave us the most incredible testimony. She sat there and I felt like, I don't know if you guys have seen Sound City, but like I felt like that scene where Dave Grohl is talking to the guy who designed the Neve boards, and he's just like, this guy is so smart. That's how I felt talking to Chris Kinney. Is she didn't make the final cut, but we had a whole scene where she explained how publishing works, like to the detail, the difference between like mechanicals and like plays and, owning your masters. And she broke it down in a way that was so salient and wonderful. But that was where we started losing people, was just people were like, oh yeah, we get it. Okay, you have to like register your songs, and so I'm so sad she didn't make the cut, but it was, we went there and it was a dissertation and it was great, but yeah, it was as Justin said, it's so convoluted, and I'm sure it's intentional, but anyway.
And especially streaming too, with the new is still, I would say, a new situation, and still a lot of that stuff is going to change and is up in the air, and so we'll see what happens. It still seems to be a moving target.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that was a good balance though of presenting and giving a feel for like just how complicated it is, but then keeping it focused on the personal story. That was good. So such a big part of this film and of this story is the relationship to the fans and like that feeling of community. And there were so many scenes that talked about like what it was like to be at the live concerts and how you feel connected to all the people in the room. And that just hit me because now we can't do that. So how does this film like hit differently right now in a post-COVID world?
Oh man, I know. I was watching this film. I was QCing it before, heading into festivals, and I was QCing it during, lockdown and a pandemic, and it was so hard to watch. And for me, because I've seen it a million times, but it was like a positive, like it was a positive negative thing where I was like, oh my God, like I miss this so much. Like I just want to be in the middle of a sweaty pit surrounded by strangers and like we're just jumping together and smiling and screaming, and I want to be there so bad. But I also feel like what it personally made me do is it made me go, okay, like hunkering down and like being safe, wearing a mask, doing whatever I can do to like protect others and protect myself so that I can get back in that pit. Like that, it was like a motivator for me, is I was just like, okay, that's what I'm looking forward to. And if you can't be in a live show right now, which we can't, then I feel like this film, I'm hoping Bleeding Audio will make you feel like you're in one, at least for 90 minutes.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Justin, how do you feel about where things are at with not being able to do live shows and what it's been, and like, will we appreciate it more in the future?
Yeah, I hope so. Like, I definitely miss going to shows. There's a couple of shows I was planning to see that got canceled, and so hopefully those still happen eventually. And also too, it's kind of funny, the last show, I guess technically the last show I went to was we played like a secret show for the film, right as lockdown started. So it was like we played like a show to promote the film, and then like lockdown. So it's just it's kind of crazy to be like, I don't know, that 180 degrees. So I think also too, yeah, another thing too is we're hoping to actually play some more shows this year, and so that's all been kind of put on hold. So I don't know, you just kind of roll with it, do your best, and like, yeah, I mean, seeing all the live concert footage definitely makes me nostalgic for shows, and I know they'll be back soon, but hopefully sooner rather than later.
Right.
Yeah, and just to like also add, what I hope it contextualizes too is, as indicated in the film and as, now more publicly known, is that musicians' primary income is touring. That's what we've learned in this digital era. It wasn't sustainable before the pandemic, and now that touring is no longer, an income at all because of the pandemic, it's obviously not sustainable now. And so I hope this brings an awareness to why we need to, as a society, value our artists and their art in a way that can provide them a better living, because clearly touring is not the best kind of income that these artists should be receiving, but there's also a whole events industry that's being lost in this too, which is a whole other issue. But like, I hope people think about that a little bit more, and I hope this film kind of, gives pause to consider, oh, hey, maybe I should buy that vinyl record, or pay $6 on iTunes for that CD,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it definitely gives a lot of perspective in a lot of ways that, yeah, I think will mean even more coming out of the pandemic and going into the future, that hopefully we'll all appreciate it more.
I hope so.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome, guys. I should probably start wrapping up. I feel like I could just keep talking to you, but
shucks, same here. This is great.
No, it was so awesome to get to watch the film, and I definitely want to share it and promote it as much as I can. We're a small newspaper in Wyoming, so definitely hoping to spread it to some audiences that might not have heard of it otherwise. But was just going to say, what would you say to encourage people to watch the film? Who do you think should watch it, and why? And how can they watch it?
Yeah, I would love everybody to make watch this film. We made it for Matches fans, of course, but we didn't just make it for Matches fans. We wanted it, as we talked about earlier, we wanted it to be accessible to everybody so that everyone can find a little piece of themselves in this story. And Yeah, I hope people watch it. We are currently, as of right now, we are screening at the Slamdance Film Festival, which is really exciting. It's one of the biggest independent film festivals in the country, and passes to their entire film festival program are only $10. Bleeding Audio is a part of that program, so you can watch it now. We also have 2 other film festivals coming up in March. We're going to be screening at the Oxford Film Festival in Mississippi, and we will also be screening at the San Luis Obispo International Film Festival in California. And yeah, we're just trying to get it out there, and hopefully soon we can get distribution and get it up on a streaming platform so that the entire world can see it. And yeah, follow us on our socials for more information. Our website is bleeding-audio.com, and our Instagram is bleeding audio film, and then our Twitter is bleeding_audio, and then I think Facebook is Bleeding Audio Film also. So you can get all the latest updates there.
I will say one of the few silver linings of the pandemic is that so many film festivals do have a virtual component this year. So people out in Wyoming who it's a little harder to get to them actually have more of a chance to watch this year. So I think that's good.
Awesome. And yeah, I grew up just an hour south of Wyoming, so
that's amazing. Love it.
So I am familiar with that little dead zone where things that are fun don't usually go to.
Yeah, we're in Rock Springs, so you gotta make it to Salt Lake or Denver if you're going for it.
Yeah, for me it was driving to Denver, so
yeah, I get it.
I love it. Cool. Well, I'm glad everything is virtual so you guys can access it.
Yes, definitely be promoting it that way and hopefully get some people over here watching it too. So
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for taking the time today. I really, really appreciate it. So nice to meet you and chat with you. And
likewise, this was great. Thank you for the awesome questions. This is this is really fun. Like I said, you're the first person to be like, oh, like the hero's journey. And I'm like, I don't understand how no one has figured this out yet.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. That makes me happy.
Oh, me too. Because yeah, I feel like it's so obvious because when we did do it, I was just like, you're gonna know. Like, it's a little obvious.
Yeah, well, some of us are catching on, but appreciating it very much.
Thank you. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day, that all the festivals go well. And yeah, just keep sharing this awesome story.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah. This was so great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.